Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Talk Cocky with me. Talk Cocky with Me is proudly sponsored by McCraw Media. McCraw Media is owned and operated by fellow Gamecock Sydney McCraw. Sydney has been a Gamecock fan since birth and grew up going to USC football games. She has a BSBA in marketing from High Point University and is at the forefront of social media marketing. Sydney has been working in the marketing industry for the past 4 years and decided to start her own agency. McCraw Media uses analytics to study your target market and industry and builds a personalized marketing plan to grow your business or brand faster than the competition. McCraw Media has 4 different plans of service. They provide strategic, tactical, operational, and a flex plan that allows them to be flexible for all. Contact McCraw Media today to see how they can help grow your business at mccrawmedia@gmail.com. That's MCCRAW media@gmail.com. or 803-517-2441. Mention Talk Cocky with me and get a free market breakdown included in your initial consultation. What's up, everybody, and welcome back, and welcome to college football season. We are, as of recording, it's Tuesday night, so we're 4 days away. Yeah, 4 days away. And we have football on the horizon, the Battle of the Carolinas at the Mayo Bowl game, whatever the crap, in Charlotte. You see the man below, Mr. Jeffrey Hopkins is back, and then I actually pointed correctly this time to that angle, the one and only Jeff Kahrs, and I am pronounced. It is Kahrs, correct?
That is correct.
All right, good. I'd already said it, so it really didn't matter. Maybe I should have asked you before we started recording how to properly pronounce your name, but
it's all good.
So how we doing, fellas? How we doing?
Great. It's game week.
Now, Jeff?
No, it's great. I mean, last weekend I was watching, FCS games just to get football in. So to have a full slate starting on Thursday,
Absolutely.
Finally got 2 TVs in my watching room, Although it's interesting, they're different brands, but the remote for each brand works the other one. So it's like, I don't want that one to be off.
That's some first world problems.
That is a first world problem.
And Jeffrey, I was actually going to ask, and it's ironic that you're the only one not wearing the hat. I think you're one of the few that can actually rival my hat game. Do we already have a game hat picked out yet?
We do. We do not.
Oh, we do not.
We do not have one picked out yet.
Now, do we wait till we're leaving to grab one, or?
Yeah, typically when we're going to home games, I wait till I decide what I'm gonna wear and then try a hat or two. And sometimes I'll take 2 or 3 with me to see what feels and what looks best. So
yeah, now that I got a couple of those, the University Tradition hats, Palmetto Shirt Company had that hat that we got at the brunch thing. So I got a couple of new hats. So now I have to do a rotation and make sure I don't mess everything up. But just released the very first, let's get this over here, the very first depth chart of the year. And I just did that and covered up my screen, so I cannot share that. Let's go here. There we go. Can we see our depth chart?
It's on.
There we go.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So first depth chart of the year. I think the wide receiver position, everybody's kind of expecting? Do we have any major surprises here?
I would just like to see some packages where we could get Nick and Juice on the field at the same time. I mean, I'm happy with our starting three. I mean, none of those guys are slackers, but it'd just be interesting, to see if we could get, the two speedsters on the field at the same time.
Mm-hmm. What about you,
You know,
Jeffrey?
No, I don't see any super. Well, I don't know. I take that back. I was a little shocked of DeCarrion being one and Juju being two, just because Juju's a actual running back. But
Well, you
I'm
got a
good with
little
either.
head. We were talking wide receivers.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine.
Eh,
That was
I
actually where I
mean,
was going with next with it.
no, I'm good. I think those three are the guys. Now, obviously, they're going to, run people in and out, but um, Wells, Brown, and Leggett are all playmakers in their own right. So, I think I'm good with those
Yeah,
three.
and I think too, looking at the way they had this broke down, this is a two tight end form. Uh, so if we ever go four wide, I think you probably would get that opportunity to have Nick and Antoine there. I mean, just think of the speed that would be on the field with Wells, Harbor, AB, and Xavier Leggett.
Yeah.
I mean,
mhm.
there's not going to be a lot of teams that's going to have DBs that can keep up with those guys like that. But yeah, jumping down to the running backs, like you were mentioning, I agree with what you're saying with that. I think probably the main reason DK is getting the bump is just he has the size to be a little bit more of an every down back.
Oh yeah, 100%,
Uh,
100%.
but it's one of those we're going to see Juju get his numbers plenty. I just think 6'1", 229 versus 5'9", 180 in more pass situations where he's going to have to step in and block. It makes sense, but yeah, I'm with you. But Jeffrey, I'll let you do the line, the offensive line first. Who's sticking out there to you?
Um, you see those offensive tackles that got the or the or.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were kind of still waiting to see um, who's going to be the one there. And again, the names that are they're listed as ones, I'm good with those guys. I mean, they all have some action. Um, I'm not even going to try pronouncing his last name. I read the pronunciation sheet and I've completely forgot how it.
How about Fugar?
No, Nick Gargiulio, I think it's
Yeah,
is.
yeah. Actually,
Yeah.
I think that's right.
He is a large human being.
Yes.
He is a Yale graduate, therefore he is an intelligent person. I think he is going to be good. Everything I've heard about him has been top notch. So
Yes.
I'm really excited to see those five starters get in there and get after it. And the other guys, I mean, Trey Jones can step in there for Ja'Kai Moore and still not miss a beat. So
Mm-hmm.
I think we're solid there on the offensive line, and that's going to be. And I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but key to not only this week but every week this season.
Agreed. Kahrs?
My only concern about the offensive line is, we got a lot of newcomers there, although our offensive line wasn't world beaters in the past. So, that's not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily bad. And like you say, they sketch out good. It'll be interesting to see how they gel. I do think you were mentioning the two tight ends. I think if we're going to run the ball, we're gonna need to be in a couple two tight end
Yeah.
situations because we just, we're gonna need to seal, and especially with Juju, not so much with the carry him, but especially with Juju, he's not going to be a grinded out kind of guy. He's going to be a sweep, a counter,
Yeah, he's
and
not your between the tackles guy.
right. And one of the things we've been lacking for a number of years here is, in my opinion, and this has held us back, is quality wide receiver blocking on run plays. And if we're going to run to the edge, we've got to have some edge blocking.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, hopefully the wide receivers get better at it, but we haven't had great wide receiver blocking. If you look at some of our big run plays we pulled off, like last season, what happened was the wide receivers were actually blocking.
Yeah.
So,
and that's actually an interesting point that you pull up, because Coach Stepp, he's made that comment a lot in the few press conferences that he actually does, how important that is as he's going out recruiting guys and he's looking at high school guys that he wants to see dudes that can actually step up and make those blocks too. I'm with all of y'all. Obviously, the big issue with the O-line is just, one, you haven't seen these guys play. Two, they haven't played together. Chemistry on the O-line is always huge. But a couple of things that I thought was really interesting. You got Jackson Hughes, red shirt freshman. Marquis Anderson, true freshman. And then Grayson Manis, redshirt freshman. So we've got some young guys that are going to get very significant playing time this year. And if you can have the Sydney's, although you got Wanamaker, whether it's Case and Henry or not, well, I guess he's redshirt freshman there too. So Case and Henry, redshirt freshman there too. Honestly, kind of snuck past me with him being on the top there. But we're going to get a mix of guys that even after this year, they're going to get a ton of experience. But then going forward, it's just going to make this line hellacious going forward. But you look at the size of these guys. And Jeffrey, you kind of mentioned it too with Nick Gargiulio at 6'5", 327. Well, Sidney Fugar is too. He's 6'5", 327. And then Jaquie Moore and Trey Jones at 318 each. Rashawn Lee at 319. I mean, that's some big boys that we've usually had a couple near that range, but not an entire offensive line knocking on 320 plus.
I think those guys are SEC-sized linemen.
Yes.
You know,
I always say eyeball test. You go to a baseball game, you can tell, okay, those guys look like baseball players. You go to a football game, these guys look like SEC linemen.
Yes.
Yes. They're going to pass that eyeball test first versus having some undersized guys that you need the fundamentals to make the play more than just the full strength. But I cut you off. Go ahead. What was it?
And I was just going to say that if you look at the people year in and year out that are playing the longest and have the best run games and compete for the big trophies, their offensive line is this size.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even Trey Jones is even at 6'2". He plays a lot bigger than 6'2".
Yeah.
Tyshawn Wanamaker plays tackle a lot bigger than 6'3". So nothing against those guys at 6'2" and 6'3", but you have to have some bigger guys up front if we're going to compete and really compete in the SEC for titles.
Agreed. I don't really, at tight end, I don't think there's any surprise whatsoever there. Two big tight end transfers come in, more than likely there. QB, I think we all agree QB is the right move for this year. We okay with Spencer Rattler running the show?
I mean, I saw some people pushing back on Doty at 2, and here's my feeling on that. Y'all may not disagree with Doty at 2 at all, but I saw some people on Twitter pushing back. My feeling is that if something happens and Spencer needs to be, substituted for in a game, I want Doty to be that guy substituting for him. He's taken snaps. He's shown he can do it in game time. Now, if it goes longer than that, do we look at Lenoris? Maybe, but I like Doty as the first off the bench guy in that situation.
What do you say, Jeffrey?
Yeah, and quite honestly, he is much like Dakereon Joyner. He has worked hard enough to deserve it.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
He can play the position. Obviously Lenoris is a tremendous talent, but at the same time, we've gotten ourselves into issues before when our only other option was a true freshman quarterback that wasn't ready. Mm-hmm. And I think hopefully now that we've got maybe a little bit of depth there, that Luke could step in if there was an issue that we really don't want to have an
Right,
issue
right.
And
I mean,
with seven coming off the field.
I mean,
yes,
Spencer loses his helmet and he's got to come off for a play.
Right.
I mean, I know you can put DK in there, but I'd much rather have Doty come in, in that situation than throw Sellers out there and
well, and you got to
to
think
learn to
too.
fire.
You could run a situation out there where you've got Juju, DK, and Doty,
Mm-hmm.
behind center in a way. That puts in a whole other wrinkle. Or you could actually throw one where you have Spencer with Doty on one side and DK on the other.
Mm-hmm.
I
Oh
mean,
yeah, I mean,
if you want to get real crazy with some plays here, obviously this isn't going to be your regular offense that you run out there every play. But you could throw some wrinkles with these guys in there. And I agree. As far as your set backup, Luke, one, has deserved it. He lost his starting position from an injury, wasn't able to come back to it. But the other argument of it, yes, he is a phenomenal athlete. But as we saw, even with DK, when he moved to wide receiver, it took him a while to get used to running routes, to get used to catching balls in traffic. When Doty has the ball in his hands, there's no doubt he is a great athlete. But if you're taking an Antoine Wells off the field or an Xavier Legette off the field or an actual wide receiver that has done this for years and is a starting SEC wide receiver for your backup quarterback, that also brings up some other questions about your receivers in my book.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think with receiver, I mean, it's really going to be a question of, do we have enough balls to get to the receivers, to make them happy? And
Well,
I
if you
know,
said we weren't
they're
talking about
seniors.
balls.
Yeah, Moose is going to be ashamed. I've already brought up balls. But no, so, and I know people aren't going to transfer midseason, but I don't think we need to worry on our too deep about replacing any of our receivers. So yeah,
I think we're.
Yeah.
I really don't have any huge issues with the offense. I mean, honestly, I don't have any huge issues with either side of it. But on the defensive side here, defensive line kind of looks like what we were expecting.
Mm-hmm.
Tyreek Johnson, and I realize the oars, there's no big thing here. Terrell Dawkins, I think he's probably still coming off that injury a little bit. They're wanting to pull him in a little slow, I would assume. Tonka Hemingway, Alex Huntley, if you didn't expect them to be your starting DTs, then I'm not sure what you're expecting.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, again, redshirt freshmen or sophomores. I mean, we've got some young guys here. Desu coming out here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they've been huge on him the whole offseason. So I think he's going to get a ton of playing time. Anybody on the D line sticking out to either one of y'all?
Yeah, I'm not sure how Coach Robertson's going to do this, but there's always a rotation of D linemen. So, first couple of plays, if it gets down the field, which we hope it doesn't, we like a bunch of 3 and outs, but you're going to see TJ Sanders really talking him away pretty fast. You're going to see Barrett come in for Boogie. I mean, it's just to keep those guys fresh, and in certain situations, when whatever personnel that North Carolina or whomever throws on the field, you're going to see some rotating. So, I'm good with that. Those guys have proven they can play, and they're not on the 2 deep, but think about Elijah Davis and Xavier McLeod.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and it's good to actually have some rotation on the D line, because I don't think we've had that a whole lot. And the guys do get worn out on the long drives,
Mm-hmm.
and they do get worn out in the game. I think Tonka's poised for a real big breakout season if he can stay healthy, though.
Yeah.
I think he really could move up the charts on some people. If and it's not knocking him, not wishing him bad, but he's had a little bit of the injury bug, and so hopefully he can stay healthy and on the field. But I think he can make some noise.
Well, and that's similar with Boogie too. Last year he was primed to to really come out. And he had his presser today where he had talked about this all season was great for him. He lightened up. He's faster, stronger. So I think Boogie's going to be in that same boat too. But yeah, Tonka really set himself up last season to have a really good one this year. But one of the things that I've said for the last few seasons, we've had really good talent at the ones, but it's in those long drives, like Jeffrey was saying, that when you've got to bring in the backups, you got to bring in the other guys while your starters are getting the breathers, that's when you got into some trouble. And that's when the talent gap happened. I think we're starting to see, yes, we can compete with the ones, but then when those twos are coming in, it's not as big of a drop off. And that's what I take away a lot with these oars. Because Beamer said it today. He said, I know a lot of you get tired about the oars, but we still have these battles going on. We ourselves do not know who's going to start yet on Saturday. And we can also come out and say, hey, these are our starters. And then when we get there, coin flip goes this way. We run a different package and some different guys go in. He goes, a depth chart isn't a starting lineup. It isn't these guys are the only ones going to play. So yeah, I'm with y'all. You look at the names here and what we've seen from these guys, and we've got the bodies this year to improve on defense for sure.
Well, if you think about if you're recruiting the right people, there's always going to be competition going on, whether it's week 1 or week 10 or 12. And I think just like I said about the offensive line being SEC size, maybe now we're getting into some SEC type depth on the defensive line, and the front sevens, and so that's where the upper echelon of SEC teams, that's where they separate themselves, is when they have depths. When you replace a 5-star with a 5-star or a 4-star, there is no real drop off. There might be some experience drop off, but talent wise, they're still there.
And did that mess any of y'all up when I stopped sharing that?
Nope.
Okay. I don't know how it's actually going to show with us or whatever. So I just dropped it. Did you have anything though, Jeff?
Not about the defensive line. I am a little concerned about our linebacker core. I mean, Stone really needs to step it up this year. He really needs to show what he's capable of, which I think last year he kind of got caught out of position or out of play a couple times. So, and I don't want to blame the kid. He was a freshman, true freshman stepping on the field, but so I'm especially given our weakness against the run, we really need that linebacker core to solidify this year.
Yeah. And it's funny you had mentioned that too. So he actually had a press conference today, and I watched them all just before we did this. And he actually said that himself. He said, last year it was a confidence thing, which again, as a true freshman being thrown in an SEC to play linebacker, that's a tough ask. And one of the things that I noticed with him last year is he had gotten around a lot of plays. And towards the end of the season, he was getting around a lot of plays. He wasn't quite getting there. The Clemson game, he had the tip ball. I believe it was Clemson had the tip ball that turned into a pick. One of those last games he did that. So, he was there in time to get the hand up, wasn't there to get the pick himself. He was getting to some plays as they were happening. And I think as it slows down a little bit more, he's going to be there, as you said, though, for this defense to get better, we're going to need him to. It's, if you look at the high school footage and you said we're going to have Stone Blanton and his backup's going to be Pup Howard, I think 99% of schools in the nation would go, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I got to see it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm not knocking them. Now I want to see it. And I understand, like I said, I understand what happened last year. I saw some plays. He got himself out of position. Which happens, but let's hope that 2 years in the program he learns. And Pup, I'm excited to see what Pup can do too, but we'll we'll see how it goes.
But I think for him, he'll probably have a little bit of that learning curve too.
But it's nice that
Hopefully
he doesn't
there's
have
no
to be the
injuries.
main guy out there.
Yeah.
You know.
Jeffrey?
Yeah, I'm ready to see these guys, because if you look at, I mean, Stone playing 6'2", 232, which he might be a little heavier than that. Pup 6'4", 240. Debo at 6'1", 232, and Mo at 60. Those are good size linebackers. And not only that are they good size, but I think they all have a streak in them in which they arrive to the football with angry intent.
Yeah.
And they're thumpers. And I've heard Debo on several occasions. He wants to hit somebody. He wants to run through people.
Yes.
And that's what you need, though. If we're going to play a 4-2, you need those two dudes in the middle to be dudes.
Yeah.
Run stoppers, stick their face in there, and I think all four of those will absolutely do that. I think last year Stone was, being a freshman, your reaction time of what you don't know is a little slow, and then you might be a little step or slow. But anyway, I think he's gotten better. I think he will do well, and getting Mo and Debo back will definitely help in the middle as well. And again, just like D-line, there's going to be a rotation, and you're going to see a lot of those guys on the field. And I'm excited to see them to play as well.
Yeah, I think for me, I think linebacker is still that position, like I was just mentioning. Once you get down into the depth chart, there's a little bit more of a gap. For me, this is still a position we cannot take an injury. Obviously not his fault, but when Cabo went down last year, and then I guess Green was coming back from the injury, so he was a little slower to come back into it, and that's what threw Stone out there. And he's one of those, you always hear coaches, if you're going to make a mistake, make it fast. Just play fast. I don't care if you make the wrong decision, just do it quickly. And I think with Stone you could almost see him processing the plays a lot of times. And I think when he gets to where he's playing fast again, we'll see him take that corner. But yeah, linebacker, I think for most Carolina fans is that big question mark of, what are we really going to get from that whole group? Then that nickel, Keenan Nelson Jr., over David Spalding. Everything that we've heard from camp, people have been raving over Nelson. So, I guess it shouldn't be too big of a surprise because they have been kind of saying this kid is balling out. But I think for most of us, seeing David Spalding that we saw get a lot of playing time last year, almost get jumped. I think just seeing it on paper is a little bit more of a surprise. As we've said, they're going to be in and out multiple times. But what do y'all think on that?
Honestly, I was actually a little shocked, but at the same time, I don't watch practice every day either. So
yeah. We
again,
always hear coaches, the best players are going to play. How many coaches actually do that? Sometimes you question. You put in a redshirt freshman over a guy that's had significant playing time, that sends the message. Best players are going to play.
Yeah, and I trust this coaching staff a little more than I've trusted previous coaching staff. Mm-hmm. If they're putting a redshirt freshman in, they believe in him. Now maybe he does it, maybe he doesn't, but they're not just throwing him out there because they knew his dad in high school or something. They're putting him out there because they think he's going to give us the best chance to start.
Mm-hmm.
And I really hope that Nick properly internalizes the lack of respect he's gotten nationally, and just lets that make his motor run.
Yeah, I guess we can do DBs as a whole, and really outside of Keenan Nelson Jr. getting the nickel nod, everything else is pretty much what we were expecting. we're going to have a couple of redshirt freshmen getting a lot of playing time, a couple of freshmen in there with Jalen Kilgore and Judge Collier. But dang, if you're Nick and Minwari, like him and DQ Smith, they just got smacked in the face.
Mm-hmm.
It really, I mean, you've got, Spencer didn't get any of the preseason stuff. Nick didn't get any of the preseason stuff. Antoine Wells hasn't gotten any of the none of our guys have gotten any of those little kind of nods. If you want to have that chip on your shoulder, is it a bad thing?
No, if you treat it right, if you don't get, if you let it motivate you.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, and I'm not totally like as put off by it as other people. There was a lot of Beamer love the first 2 years in the media.
That's true.
And so now there's a little backlash to that. So it's okay. You win it on the field, you don't win it in the newspaper. So let's see what happens.
And so if you haven't watched Spencer's press conference from today, I would encourage it. He and a few other people have posted it, but he is locked in. We don't know what we're going to get on Saturdays from him. But typically you see him kind of smirking and, maybe a little joke with the media. You could probably count on one hand how many times he smiled. I mean, it was, yep, we're ready to go. It's a good game. Let's go. I mean, he was just to the point. Hey, it's game week, guys. Let's get this press conference over so I can go watch some film, so I can go get ready. I mean, I think motivationally he's there. I don't think we have too many things to worry about with him. Do we need to hit the specialist? I mean, it's kind of set. Same guys we've had in a while. What most of us
I can't
expected.
believe Kroger got the start over Williams. I mean, come on, over Joyce. I mean, what's going on there?
I mean, Kai has been great. He's put like 95 of them on the 4-yard line, but we've got to get the 3 or the 2. 3 or the 2-yard line. I mean,
just to echo what you said about Spencer, I was thinking today about this. Both Spencer and Wells came back because they didn't like where they were going to go.
Mm-hmm.
And they're motivated to do their best to show what they can do to get where they want to go on the next level. Because both of them could have gone last year and got decent mid-round picks and gotten good looks, but they want to do better. So I don't think either of those guys, there's going to be a question that they're going to put it all out there because they want film and they want to be in the first round.
Yeah. Well, and there was actually a video that Juice released. I only watched a few minutes of it because it was like 58 minutes of him doing workouts. I'm like, I can't watch that. But I watched the first few minutes of it, and he was somewhere training. There were some NFL guys and everything he was training with. And he had done something, and it was kind of one of those, it was surprising that he put it in his own little video. But the trainer made a comment. He goes, come on, you just here? Are you here to work? And Juice stopped on a dime, and he turned to him. He goes, I never stop working. Don't you ever question me on that. And I was like, whoa. I mean, this trainer made the comment, just, hey, guy, hey, you here to work or not? And Juice like, don't even joke about that. We don't play like that. He goes, let's work. And then a few minutes later, there was another clip. He walked up to him and goes, I can't believe you asked me that. Why would you ask me if I'm here? Like you said, Jeff, those two guys are locked in. There was a lot said about Beamer's press conference today of a couple of guys, maybe didn't seem like they were in on it, but I don't think we're going to have any issues with those two guys leading this team.
I think that was just coach frustration after a bad practice.
I think so.
I
think so. But that actually leads one. Talking about Juice. So they had everybody's saying he's good to go. We've heard a couple people come out and say that he's 80 to 90%. I think it's a foot injury. They're really protective with that stuff these days. We think it's a foot injury, potential pinky toe or something. I think it's a lot of the rumors. What are our thoughts on playing time for Juice for Saturday? If he is not, and again, Coach Beamer says that he's fine. Juice Wells says that he's fine. He says he's playing. There's no signs that he shouldn't be. But if he is not 100% healed, your head coach, Jeffrey Hopkins, we'll call it star wide receiver, has a foot injury. Just, again, if we're going rumor mills, foot injury, had a minor surgery on it. What do you do for this week? Do you limit? Does he get full PT and he says if he can go or not? If he aggravates it and it turns into a season injury?
Yeah, I mean that's the tough call because he wants to be on the field. You need him on the field.
And of course, this is hypothetical. This is all hypothetical.
I would really have to look and see what kind of movement can he cut, can he run. Beating North Carolina will be fabulous, and him being a huge part of it. But if he has to play a smaller role in this game to play a bigger role down the road, then we just play a bigger role down the road. You don't want something small turn into a larger injury just to start. I hate to say start the win out with a year out with a win because you want to do that, but you don't want to cause an issue. Much rather win 9 or however many SEC games than
one ACC.
Mm-hmm.
So. Well, and I think as Carolina fans, we saw Luke Doty a few years ago, foot injury, tried to come back a little early. He was out for weeks. Connor Shaw during that season, similar foot injury. He toughed it out. He refused to sit out. But nagging injury that maybe if they sat for one more week, it would have been good enough. Maybe it was 2 weeks. Obviously we're not doctors. We don't know the details. But it's crazy to think that you come back a day or two too early, re-aggravate it. Jeff, what would you do?
The nice thing is we do have the little luxury of depth in the wide receiver room. So, he doesn't have to be the number one receiver even if he's out there. He doesn't have to be getting, decleated all the time on middle routes. We've got other guys that can do that, and just, having him out there is going to force, North Carolina to game plan for him.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's hard because it's hard to keep kids off the field. It's hard to know, what's actually going on. Even the people that know, I mean, forget us who are just having to go with what we heard. It's just tough to know. So, you just got to trust the coaching staff. And, I know Jeffrey talked about, it'd be great to beat North Carolina. And number one, every game we go into, I'm going to want us to win, and I'm going to be mad when we lose. As I posted on Twitter, anything I say an hour before up to an hour after the game does not count, cannot be held against me on a court of law. But this is really, and it's a cliche, but this is really the year that you have to not count the wins and losses. You want to win. But the program's heading in the right direction. And if we get dragged down because we have a few things not go our way this year, we've got to have that faith that it's headed in the right direction. We can't just all, start nitpicking and abandon ship because it didn't go right, and then go, well, maybe you shouldn't have started Juice against North Carolina kind of stuff. I really think, with the recruiting and the, culture gets overplayed, but with the culture and, the way the fan base is bought in, that I think that we're heading in the right direction. But this could be a tough year. It's a tough schedule.
It is.
We're going to beat Furman, but Furman's number 7 in FCS. So it's not like we're playing, the sisters of the poor,
And it's, and for me, and I said on a couple episodes before, and for me, it's always be competitive in every single game. That is step one to getting better. You have to be competitive in every single game. Give yourself a chance to win. Mm-hmm. If the chips don't fall, chips don't fall. If the other team was the better team today, they were the better team. If you're competitive in every single game, you're going to win more than you're going to lose, but you're also going to be able to look at the body of work and go, okay, they're getting better. You're going to be able to go on the recruiting trail and say, hey, that 1/3 down against X team was crucial. You're the number one defensive end in the nation. If we could have got around that end, made that tackle, we would have won that game. We're that much better if you come here. But if you, let's say Georgia last year, if you go, or Florida last year, I think most of us would say when we were good last year, we were really, really good. But when we were bad last year, we were really, really bad.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get those games more competitive, you're able to say, hey, we're a player or two away from great seasons where, you can't go with those games in anybody's house and be like, hey, if you come here, you'd be the difference maker. We would have lost 32-0 instead of 30. Like, you can't have those losses. You've got to get those more competitive. I think we're there. I think we're there to be competitive with everything. I agree with what on the actual subject that we were actually on with Juice. I agree with most. I don't know that I would put this game above the season. If you run him out there, I would probably have him, if he is not 100%, if he is anything but 100%, and if there is even a 1% chance that if he re-aggravates it, it's going to put him out for multiple weeks again, at a bare minimum, I would put him on a pitch count. You're going to be out here for 25% of the plays that we were going to have you for. Even then, they've got all the monitors in them. I'm probably putting them on a distance. Okay, you've ran 2 miles, you're done. If 2 miles is 290-yard touchdowns, I realize 2 miles is not. My math skills are not that bad. Let me fix this before Jeff Kahrs blows me up on Twitter.
I was just going to let you dig. See where you got.
But if he takes 290-yard touchdowns to the house and that's his limit, you're done. Great game, kid. But and that's if there's any chance that he can if it's a re-aggravating. I know there's a lot of stuff that once it's repaired, it may not feel 100%, but it's repaired. You're not going to damage it. Cool. Yeah. Let's go play ball. Speaking of playing ball, it's week 1. Let's talk about the enemies. But before we do, the newest addition to the show, especially for game week, is we are going to get a weather forecast, and Mitch West is going to tell us what to expect in Charlotte this Saturday.
What's going on, everyone? It's Mitch. So it's looking like there's going to be some beautiful weather for game day. It's looking like we're going to wake up to the upper 50s in Charlotte. So I don't think you can ask for a better college football week 1 to kick off your weekend there in Charlotte. So I'm expecting temperatures, if you're getting there pretty early for college game day, to be, maybe as low as the mid to upper 50s in Charlotte. It'll be low humidity, so it's not going to be your typical week 1 kind of game as far as weather where, it's brutally hot here at Williams-Brice Stadium at game 1. Beautiful, beautiful weather. And then by the time you're about mid to late morning, 60s, 70s, and by the time you get into the afternoon, you're doing anything, tailgating, it should be in the low 80s in Charlotte. Low humidity. It'll be very comfortable. By the time it's game time, things should cool down to about the 70s. Low humidity continues throughout the entire day. So expecting a beautiful week 1 in Charlotte. So that's all I got. I'll take it back over to the other guys.
All right. So it looks like Saturday in Charlotte is going to be one of the nicest season openers that anybody wearing garnet black has experienced in a while. I think a September game in the 70s / potential 80s, I think we would take 100% of the time.
Yes.
So not Carolina. They are, like us, new offensive coordinator. Like us, their quarterback's the main show. They are losing their top wide receivers, where we're not, and they do have the running backs. I think offensively wise, I think we have more tools, more weapons. Like I said, they lost their top 2 wide receivers from last year, bringing back their top 2 running backs, which is probably better for them if you look at us historically. But Mr. Hopkins, what is your thoughts on this game Saturday, North Carolina?
Well, you said it. If you bring the top 2 running backs back, they're going to run the football. So we got to stop the run, and stop the run some more.
I think we're going to learn very quickly if we improved any.
Yeah. And then you make them play behind the sticks. And then when you get in those long situations, Drake he's a great quarterback. So you get him in the point where you get your edge and your defensive ends into a position that they can just pin their ears back and rush the passion and see. I mean, we got 2 years removed from the nation's leading sack leader in Strong.
Mm-hmm.
Injury last year, but he's back. He came back, and he came back for this reason.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to make them, move that line of scrimmage back. We've got to control the line of scrimmage, and like you said, we'll figure out if we've gotten better there. So it'll be interesting to see, but we're going to have to stop the run, force them to do things that they may not want to do or may not be comfortable doing yet. Playing them the first game of the season, and they could say the same thing about us. Play the first game of the season with a new offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
See if they've got it figured out yet.
Well, and I'm actually going to jump in on that one. If we can get teams in obvious passing situations, I think we'll probably, if I'm head defensive coordinator here, I'm looking at a Jordan Strawn on one end and a Dez on the other. I think Dez is going to be very similar to Clowney in year one, and I'm not proclaiming him to be Jadeveon Clowney. I think we'll use him very similar to how Spurrier did in that first year of, if it's 3rd and long, Clowney's coming out, and Clowney's going to be told, get to the quarterback. You run as fast as you can around that tackle, you get to the quarterback. You don't have to do a spin move. You don't have to bull rush the guy. You just get by him. Don't worry about stunts. Don't worry about spins. Get around him. I can see where we may do that with Dez because he really seems to be that tall, long guy with really good speed coming off the edge. But yeah, that's just my theory. That's where I think we may be able to go on some 3rd and longs. You put Jordan on one side and Dez on the other side, and that seems like on paper to me in my brain, that seems pretty cool.
And just a side tangent, I'm a huge fan of the late Brad Lowen, and Coach Robertson being one of his understudies. Those years where we could go and what they called their rabbit D line.
Yep. I forgot about that.
With Ingram and Clowney, and I forgot who the third was, but basically you put 3 defensive ends up there, and
I think Jared was the only DT, wasn't he?
And Tonka, and Boogie to an extent, but Tonka having to play defensive end during the bowl game, you put him over center and you put those other 2 cats in there and just pin your ears back and go. May work or it may not, but a big fan of how we used to run that with Coach Lawing there, and Ellis Johnson. He lives in big fan of his too.
Dang, we had some boys on defense back then.
Yeah, we were pretty good.
We had some boys.
Pretty good.
Jeff, what's your initial thoughts on North Carolina? Or we'll talk about those 2010 teams for 3 hours.
Well, my thoughts on North Carolina are they were a lot like us last year, in that when they were good, and when they were bad, they were bad, and so you don't really know what you're going to get. I think
It's
the
like
big
Forrest Gump's box of chocolates.
right. I think the biggest thing that we need to take away as a team um, is to not let one bad play turn into 4 or 5 bad plays. Because Drake May is a legit Heisman Trophy guy. He's going to hit some passes that are just like, what? How'd he do that? He's going to get, he's going to spot an open guy, an open runner. We just got to get back on the field and recover from it, and not get gun shy, not get, because I'm confident, if we're healthy, I'm confident in our ability to score,
Mhm.
and I'm confident mostly in our ability to stop. But we just got to see, do we have the character to, because this is going to be a gut check game. Do we have that character, especially on defense, to come back out after having given a long drive? But part of that too is our offense has to stay on the field. The game's shorter now. I don't know
Mhm.
how many of y'all,
That new clock.
realized that watching the clock game. I mean, I realized that the quarters were just gone. And if you're on the field a good bit, that keeps Drake May off the field. And they don't get a whole bunch of plays. And that's going to be part of it is, would I love to see, Juice, catch a 90-yard touchdown every time? Sure. But what I'd like to see, I'd like to see some 10 and 12 play drives too.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
let's
and Beamer,
let's heat up some clock. Let's control the game.
yeah, Beamer made that comment last week, I think it was, that one of the things he really wanted to do, that we needed to work on as an offense more were the long drives. And he said, we've had a couple this offseason, but for the most part, we haven't really seen, and he was saying like 15 play drives, which I think most people would say, hey, if you're getting into a 15 play drive, it's end of the first half, end of the game, where you're ground and pounding to run it out. We haven't had very many teams that consistently do that. Back to those 2010 teams we did. But I think, again, that is that next level of what makes a team good to great. If you need a 15 play drive to go down and score, but milk the clock and you can do it and nobody can stop you, you're a great team. Or either you're playing Blue Ridge High School.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my alma mater before anybody tries to listen and say I'm dogging them. But yes, the way I look at it, I think special teams wise, we're going to get the check mark above every team we play this year.
Oh, we're one of the best special teams
Yep.
in the country.
I think
There's no
last
doubt
year they
about
tried
that.
to say we were number 2 for something, whatever. So we're going to, in every matchup every year, we're going to have the better special teams on the field that day. I think defensive wise, I think we have the nod here too. Yes, we still have some question marks. But if you had, what made North Carolina falter last year was their defense was terrible. And North Carolina's going to have to outscore teams. Do they have the offense to do that? Yeah. If it looks anything like it did last year, probably. But I would still have to kind of give us the check mark for defense. And yes, I'm biased, and no, I don't care about it. So even if it turns into a shootout, for me, I think we get the nod for it. I mean, I think I've seen a couple people throw out numbers. I'm not a huge score predictor person. I think we have the guys that if this Dow Loggins offense is anything close to what we've been advertised, if it's going to be all about matchups and rhythm and this and that, the other, I think we should be averaging 30 points a game. And I don't think that's crazy to say. Even in the SEC, maybe Georgia's defense. But most games, I think we should be putting up 30, 35 a game. I think if we can get ahead of North Carolina and get them to where they're not running the ball, that is going to be very, very beneficial for us. I think we need to come out hot, put some points on the board, put the pressure on North Carolina, and say, hey, Drake, beat us with your arm. It's my thoughts. Somebody talk.
Yeah, like I said, I think you make them do something they're not comfortable doing under a new offense coordinator. And we've got to, defensively need to force turnovers. That's going to be a big part of it as well. Control the ball on offense. I think, you were saying about Beamer talking about those long drives. I think he said they, at last week's scrimmage, had an 18-play drive.
Uh-huh.
And I'm thinking, I'm good with that, because if you take 18 plays and then you score, not kick a field goal, but then you score, that's eating the ball. Now, I know that's not sexy and nobody wants to see that on TV, but I don't care. I just want to win. So,
well, and trying to pull the math, because we've already established, I think 90 yards is the equivalent to a mile, but 18 plays in a 100-yard field, that is almost one first down. Just like you get 10 yards first down. Okay, 10 yards first down. You're literally walking it down the field. No chunk plays, no big hitters. It's literally like you're going deep, 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 deep.
It's about 5 or 6 yards to play.
Yeah. I mean,
and really, that clock's going to move faster because they don't stop it during the first. Now during first down. So, yeah, but
well, and you mentioned it too. Sorry, I cut you off. I had looked a few years back at what made the Spurrier teams so much better than any other team we ever had. And I was looking at even the Muschamp years, the Marcus Satterfield years, at the offensive numbers compared to Spurrier. And really the numbers weren't that big of a difference. You weren't sitting here seeing Spurrier, hey, we're averaging 560 yards a game. Marcus Satterfield was getting like 120. There wasn't that big of a gap. The gap was touchdowns versus field goals.
Yep.
And that was it. Yep. Steve Spurrier in the red zone scored touchdowns. That was it. He scored touchdowns in the red zone, where these other OCs and all, they got in there and they're like, we have to shrink our plays. We don't know what to do, or we just couldn't get it to click, whatever the situation was. But that's the main difference. Again, I've said 47 times, between good versus a great team. When you get in the red zone, like you just said, Jeffrey, it's touchdowns, not field goals.
And he would flip the game after a turnover.
Yeah.
He would not run up the middle after a turnover to save his life. After a turnover, he would flip the game. And that's just something. Yeah. And okay, probably every time it isn't the smartest play, but you don't get many of them during the game, and you most probably only get, even great teams only get one or two net in a game. So when you get it, do something with it. Make it matter. Make it matter that you got an interception. Make it matter that your defensive end caused a fumble. Make it matter.
Yeah, don't go pee down your leg and go 3 and out.
Yeah,
which we've done.
Did you see some podcast that probably gets 1 or 2 more views than me? I think the bus people, one of them that went to Nebraska, he's like, "Oh, I think we're like a 9-11 win team," and literally every Carolina fan comment goes, "You've got Satterfield for your OC. You haven't seen that yet."
Did you see he commented the other day he wasn't going to dumb down the playbook?
Oh, yes.
And it's like, oh, y'all enjoy that, guys. Y'all enjoy that. We heard that for a couple of years. Yeah.
People had been arguing that it was too thick or whatever, and Marcus Satterfield came out and said, "Well, I'm not turning it down." I was like, "Urgh." Yep,
we've been there.
Have fun with that one.
Well, he may not have a choice either. His head coach there may say, "You know what? I'm not." Matt Rule may say, "I'm not getting run out of Lincoln. You're gonna fix it."
I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in Rule either, to be honest with you. I know we're not supposed to be talking about Nebraska, but man, they just don't strike me as good. They used to strike fear in the hearts of men, and not anymore. One thing I'd like to get in before, and I don't know how much time you're planning on spending.
Hey, go for it.
One thing I'd like to get in before we break up is I really want to shout out to Jason Brown. I watched most of that game. he looked so good. And I'm so glad he's getting a chance to show what he can do. And, he doesn't, he left under good conditions. He came here, he did what he needed to do. He left under good conditions. He didn't go to, Florida State for a bag of money for his grandpa.
Or Southern Cal to be the backup and run for 42 yards.
Right. He left under good conditions, and let's and I was really proud of how he performed in that game.
Yeah, and I was kind of disappointed with VT when he went there. Like, that was his coming home moment, and like literally all the talk coming out of camp was that he was the guy, and then week one they were like, nope. So obviously I have no clue what went on there. I don't really follow it.
Yeah, but it's not like VT was good. It's not like they made a great decision because they weren't good last year.
No. Yeah, so, I'm with you. It was awesome seeing him had a really good game. Hopefully he can put multiple together.
The other thing I'm going to observe is if it works like it did Saturday, we are going to set a record for block punts in a game when we play Jacksonville State. Because their punt game was slow and bad.
Well, that is the one game I really, really, really want to go to this year for obvious reasons. And we won't say it because it'll get Jeff Kahrs excited, and we're not going to talk about it. But before we do bounce, actually, let's give a little toast to the Bonk Dog in honor of the Bonk Dog for passing. For anybody that doesn't know, that's Rose's favorite gift. I always post to Jeff, the Bonk Dog. We won't explain why. But back to football, back to North Carolina. Real quick, what do we think for the first play of the game? I think every Carolina fans, we want to see something huge. We keep hearing about matchups with Al and how he's a players coach and Spencer loves him and the wide receivers love him. So I think we're all kind of geared up for, okay, the first play is going to be this huge splash. Are they going to buy into that? Are they going for a big hit play one? Are we just going to go with an ISO with DK straight up the gut for 2 yards and people think we got Marcus Satterfield again?
We're gonna do something we haven't done in years. We're gonna hit a slant to AB over the middle for about 18 yards.
Oh, now you're making me excited saying that S word. A slant.
You can throw those.
It's like a pick and roll in basketball. Nobody likes it, but it works every single time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, slant to AB. What you got, Jeffrey?
I'm a run game guy, but depending on where the ball is, there's a lot of things. But anyway, I'm a big fan of throwing to the tight end, and Trey Knox is a big one.
Oh,
now if you really want to get crazy, you come out and you put that world-class track star, and you put him in motion. You hand him the ball and say, "Run that." Run through the other end zone.
Wow.
And see how fast Nick Harper can run with the ball in his hand.
Do your best, Forrest Gump, and just start running.
Jet sweep with Nick Harper. That's one thing I like about the speed we have at wide receiver. I think with the speed we have at wide receiver, most teams aren't going to be able to go man with us all game.
No.
And once we force them into the zone, Trey Knox is going to, you just hit Trey Knox over the middle, hit Trey Knox over the middle, hit Trey Knox over the middle when they're playing zone.
If our O-line can be there, I really think we are a matchup nightmare for a lot of teams. I mean, think of Nick Harper by himself. He's 6'6" and world-class speed. There's no DB that one can run that fast or two jump that tall. I'm actually going to – so we did in our season prediction episode – I said Nick Harper's taking the first touchdown. I'm sticking with that. I'm going to throw a little wrinkle in the fold here. Spencer takes the snap, tosses it over to DK, and DK does what he does against North Carolina in that stadium, and he throws a bomb to Nick Harper for the touchdown.
The place would explode.
Yeah. How amazing would it be for DK to throw an opening touchdown against North Carolina in that stadium again? But it's game week. we will wrap it up. I think we're hitting on like an hour now. People are probably not even listening to us at this point. Who cares? It's football. We're happy. So South Carolina, North Carolina, battle for the real Carolina for the next however long until we play them again. Mr. Kahrs, it is the tradition that the newbie sends us out with their best demo. Go Gamecocks.
Go Gamecocks.
Well, I gotta count it off, dude.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh my God.
I was premature. I was premature. I got excited. Do it again. I think I can go twice.
I'm not hitting the easy softball there. Fellas, as always, appreciate it. We will do it again. Jeff, send us out at your own time.
Go Gamecocks.